You can pick a map that favors you and your civs if you have flexibility. Although it doesn't look like we're going to see that today, as Mediterranean is a standard map. However, it is a water map, so that could make things interesting. Matchup wise, it looks like we've got 3 Uranoses versus Zeus, Isis, and Uranus. Especially on a map like this, I'd definitely favor the mix of civs. They're going to be much stronger in the late game, having the Egyptian and the Greek player. And then Uranus' strength is typically early game in raiding and pressure, especially with his Terma, which are ranged cavalry archers that can do a lot of damage. But on a map like Mediterranean, the issue is on the sides. You're sort of got a narrow choke point on land, so it's a lot easier to wall it off and contain the Atlantean players and prevent their raiding, as opposed to an open map. So on this map, even in single player 1 versus 1, you'll typically get a lot of standoff going on the sides. And if the game ends up in a standoff, it's going to favor the civs that are stronger in the late game. Everything can change though, depending on who wins water. If one side were able to win water cleanly, especially if it's the triple Uranus, that could be enough advantage to take land control and win early, so we'll see how that plays out. The other thing to note on this map, because team games do typically last a bit longer than 1 versus 1s, is the town center positioning. You always want to see if town centers are within water range or not, because as you get later onto the game and into heroic or mainly mythic, once you get the range upgrade, siege ships can be used to take out town centers that are within water range. So that can have a big impact on the game, because the town centers provide an extra 20 population. If your opponent can take them out with siege ships easily, it's very hard to defend against that, because no matter what you put to defend, building wise, the siege ships will outrange it. So only real defense is counter ships, but then you've got to dedicate population sitting on water to protect that. And you're wasting population no matter what, either losing the town center or having to dedicate extra resources to defend water. If no town centers were in water range, you could give up water much easily, but with town centers in water range, it puts more of a importance on winning water. And on this map, we do have a few town centers that are within water range, although not as many as could be. I think we only have 2. I think this one and that one are the only 2 in water range. So just to paint the sides, teal, red, and blue on the left side are on one team, and then pink, yellow, and green on the top right are on the other team. So they're going to be fighting here and then over here. I actually kind of like the setup on the map in that it's quite a bit of distance on land between the teams. Sometimes they might be a little closer. And actually, looking at the map, it does, PK does have a significant advantage in that the 2 town centers I said were in water range. Both belong to TBL. So that's going to put increased importance on their end of winning water and controlling that as the game gets later on. Whereas PK can safely give up water if the TBL is committing too heavily, and then their town centers are all relatively safe. I haven't been observing the players too much because it's still early game. You're just going to have standard water builds. Once we get to about approaching 5 minutes or so, people start hitting classical and it'll get a bit more interesting. Another aspect in team game and water fights, it's typically always going to be classical aeroship fighting. Whereas in a 1 vs 1 matchup with an Egyptian like Isis, you might have a fast heroic to get out early siege ships and utilize the Ancestor's Eclipse to harass the opponent's economy. However, taking the time to go fast heroic in team games is risky, because it's then possible you're either going to get all three of you knocked off your fishing, or you're going to have your two opponents who do fight classical get overwhelmed early. So typically you won't see the fast heroic out of Egyptian in a team game. As you can see, pretty much all the Oranos players use the exact same build and all got classical within a few seconds of each other. Person to keep an eye on is Giovanni, who's going to be the Egyptian player. Typically they'll advance classical a bit later. So how he handles the early pressure from the opposing Oranos players will be interesting. As we can see, he's already getting knocked off a bit of his fishing. Looks like red, Seattle's coming over to help, which is wise. Yellow's got a bit of a distance to travel to get there, but he does have one ship over. Micro in this matchup's good to see. Not all arrow ships are equal. Greek arrow ships will have a range bonus, 16 range versus the normal. I think it's 14 for normal ships, but I think Atlantean might be a little less. Or maybe, well, Greek has a slightly longer range, whereas Atlantean ships are going to be cheaper and faster, but not as strong health and attack-wise. Egyptians, meanwhile, kinda slack in arrow ship fighting because their bonus is against fishing ships. So when it comes to actual fighting arrow ship versus arrow ship, Egyptians struggle a bit, which is why you'll typically see fast heroic strategies on water maps quite frequently. It does look like Giovanni's going to be fighting classical though. So far it's mostly been a stalemate, but doesn't look like Blue has that much fishing. I think he's been knocked off his forward fishing patches, so all he's really got is the fishing right here, which is a small win for PK. Having 3 Uranus's will also grant him 3 shockwaves, some water, which can help him win a lot of the water fights. Sorry, I should have checked the god power. Lion, the Zeus player, did go Restoration, which can be used in a large team fight on water to shift the tides a bit, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Purple with a fairly early land army, so that's interesting to see what he plans on doing with that, whether it's going to be to try to take out the docks or apply pressure by land. You can see by Giovanni's mix of pure wood and gold and no food, it doesn't look like he's planning on going fast heroic anytime soon. There's Restoration. You never want to fight Restoration because the units are just going to heal faster than you can do damage, so wise retreat by PK. For those wondering, this is the original AoT, because some players still have difficulties with Extended Edition RTSL games. They're still getting played on the original AoT at the moment. It would be nice to use the new Observer interface from Extended Edition. I'm missing that feature a bit right now, but For now, we'll have to make this work. Some miss micro here on PK. You can see both yellow and green ships were chasing red's low ship back. That's really the deciding factor in water fights. Is what happens is you want all your ships to focus one ship of the enemy down, but if your enemy's quick enough to pull that one ship back, all your ships will chase after it, effectively not doing any damage while all your opponent's ships are beating on yours. So there's constant micro wars that you'll see going on in these water fights, of always trying to pull back the weakened ship and then refocusing your ships if your opponent manages to do the same. This is interesting. Demonoid's off harassing Teal's docks. Well, you've got a triple team going on blue, green and yellow. I actually favor the triple team in this situation because you're going to be doing a lot more damage military-wise. Harassing the fishing ships isn't really that huge if you end up losing all of green and yellow ships in water as a whole, so pink wisely comes over and helps. So it looks like pink's been using his early land army to raid a bit, but missing that town center going up, that's a bit unfortunate. He could have harassed that pretty well. He had the heroes to kill the myth unit, so not really doing any damage with that. Still looks like PK's holding on. Yellow's going a bit light, it looks like. Okay, he's got some additional ships down there that are out of the battle. Pink's also wisely taken a second and third town center, so again, as the water battles rage on, PK doesn't have as much need to win water because, again, it's TBL who's got the town centers within water range as the game goes on. PK is more than safe to play land, especially if they can get this forward town center, although this one I think is on water range. I'll fix the streaming icon on Voobly after this game. I updated in one profile, but I guess I need to do it in both. The game also launched before I started streaming, so that could be why the Voobly streaming icon's not showing up as well. Looks like Teal's no longer invested in the water, so it looks like TBL might be giving it up. Yeah, Blue's ships are dwindling as well. It looks like TBL's giving up water. I'm a little concerned for TBL at the moment. losing water, and then also on land they're down a town center. Pink's taking Teal's, although Teal has 3 town centers. If you look at the map, technically he took one of Red's town centers, as Blue only has 2, so land-wise PK's up a town center at the moment. They haven't taken this one yet, but they have at least fortified it with some military buildings, and it looks like they've got 2 players on that side, so they should be able to secure that. So PK. Or I thought they won water, but they didn't fully clean them out. Blue's mostly done. They're working on his docks, but Red still has quite a bit of a presence water-wise, and they just see that now. So in addition to the 1 town center advantage, I take note of Teal's town center right here being extremely close to the water, so that's an easy takeout by siege ship later on. Some good pressure on land here, knocking Blue off his gold. Blue does have a few more gold mines, including some down here between him and Red, which are a bit safer, but knocking off a Greek player like that early on, especially since I think that's his only gold source. He's out of his initial gold, so that was the only place he was mining gold. That can set him back and delay him a bit, slow his military production, and possibly slow a heroic advancement. This is some nice ship positioning from Red. He's going to be able to pick off quite a few units with those ships. Arrow ships do extremely well against human units early on, so you've got to be extremely careful when you're setting the rally point on your units. You don't want them to run by arrow ships whatsoever. They'll just get picked apart. Very little econ upgrade wise from Teal. As you can see, he's really low score wise, and having no economy upgrades isn't going to help him catch up. Blue, very little as well. Red has the basics, but you look on the other side, yeah, level 2s for pink, basic for yellow, basic for green, but overall the edge goes to PK. I think Blue and Red will be able to hold on this side, but what I'm worried about at the moment is Teal. Being an Egyptian with a classical army, you're okay fighting classical versus classical, but as soon as Demonoid gets heroic and gets out some destroyers to tank the damage from the slingers, and then the dryads to soak up damage as well, Teal's going to be in trouble facing that if he's still in classical, which, as an Egyptian on 3 town centers, producing villagers out of all of them, that really slows your heroic time, so I'm guessing heroic will be later for Teal than it is for purple, so I think that's a big concern for TBL at the moment. As we can see, yeah, here come the dryads and the destroyers already pushing in the town center. Where's Red's military production? Alright, it's at this town center, so it's somewhat close to Teal, but Teal gets... He's also getting a lot of economic damage. He's pretty much lost a lot of villagers and had the villagers knocked off all his farms on that town center already. Again, kind of a stalemate here. Yeah, I was about to say Blue really needs to get an underworld passage so him and Red can help. That's really their best option, and as we can see, he's almost heroic with the Apollo, so he'll have the Underworld in a minute. But at the same time, Green's getting the siege up. That looks like a panic eclipse from TL. As you can see, he doesn't have any myth units that are being helped by Eclipse, so I guess that was just to block any god powers from his opponent. But really the only thing he's blocking is the Underworld from Blue. Blue just got heroic and could be Underworlding over potentially, but he's blocked for 40 seconds by TL's Eclipse. And now that Green and Yellow both have so many palaces up, they're going to be getting a lot of destroyers out, so even with the palace from Red and the town center from Blue, if they try to Underworld over, Yellow and Green are going to be able to push through this, so really tough spot for TBL at the moment. Pink's got the 4 town centers. Blue's fighting down a town center as well, so... Also got trade going from Pink and Green early, so they're going to have really strong economies. PK's still got their fishing going, whereas Red and Blue have no fishing, and TL's got virtually nothing. Red got Mythic Age, but I don't know what he's going to be able to really do with that. You can use the Implode to push back Green and Yellow a bit, but TL is pretty much got nothing at the moment. He's got his villagers running around like this, not gathering resources. Meanwhile, the push on that town center is going in. Purple's claiming that one. That town center is going to die in a second, and that's the game. I think the big thing there is PK traded better on water. I think the Egyptian was the weak link in classical fighting, and then having 3 Uranus's is 3 shockwaves on water, which can really tilt the scale of the wars. The other thing, the restoration god power didn't really help too much. It was in a situation where PK could retreat with their faster ships, so the restoration really wasn't as effective. You really want to try to use it in a situation where you've got PK pinned and has force them to fight the restoration instead of retreating. Look at the post game quickly. I'm guessing the economy was the big thing for TL, and yeah, as we saw, he had just that one economy upgrade, whereas Purple took an early 2nd and 3rd town center, so Purple had a strong economy behind it. Definitely give the MVP for Demonoid for that performance, taking the extra town center and pushing TL. Pretty much won PK the game. And Kai and 7up did a good job fighting water. Good job by PK.